Good morning and welcome to the Core Connection. I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network. And today's topic is the unknowing. What does it take for us to step into the pregnant void of unbounded possibility? And what is it that stops us from moving into that space? How can we embrace it? What's available to us? Exciting conversation. But before we get started, let's take a minute or two to get present. Let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells, all your organs, bringing vital life energy to your body and being. And as you exhale any tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. This time, imagine brilliant, bright light lighting you up from the inside out, illuminating, electrifying, and energizing all your cells, all your molecules and electrons, creating a brilliant beam of light from your heart out into the world. And as you exhale any remaining tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's press our palms together and rub them vigorously. Feel all that sensation, the pressure, the tension, the friction, all that tickling and tingling, and allow all those sensations to bring you present right here, right now, into this remarkable physical form that enables you to experience life. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning, Rosalind. Welcome. It's so good to have you here with us this morning. It was great to have you on our Sustainability Now movie night last night for our adventures with Dr. Joe Dispenza. So that's really what we're talking about today, is stepping into the void, the unknowing, and what's available to us when we allow ourselves to step into the unknown, to release our attachment and identification with everything we know, including who we believe ourselves to be, and how we believe the world to work, and to just step into the space between, the in-between, to step into the space between the familiar world and the vastness of possibility. So I really, really recommend checking out the Rewired series by Dr. Joe Dispenza. You can find it on Gaia TV. And if you're not familiar with Dr. Joe, he has written a number of books, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, Becoming Supernatural, You Are the Placebo, and he couches, he has been doing a lot of scientific research and validation for the power of meditation and essentially quantum consciousness, and how we typically live our lives in the 3D world where we are matter trying to affect matter. Oh, excuse me. Just waking up here in so many ways. Anyway, when we operate from Newtonian physics, the world of Newtonian physics, Rosalind says, "Oh, the series is on Gaia TV. I was wondering, cool, you're sharing the series." Yes, it's very, very worthwhile. I recommend it to everybody. because there's nothing more hopeful, actually, that I have encountered than the potential of our consciousness to literally shape and shift reality, from the quantum dimension to shift our experience of Newtonian reality. So what we're looking at is how most of us live in this 3D Newtonian world where we affect our lives from matter to matter, essentially, you know, from a Newtonian physical plane. And the thing is that our consciousness is quantum. Our consciousness is unbounded. We have access to other dimensions or the wheelworks, really, of nature that goes beyond the wheelworks to the source of the wheel, perhaps. That we have the capacity to shape our experience that goes way beyond any standard laws of Newtonian physics, and moves into the realm of energy and intentionality and frequency and that we have the resources within us to access these dimensions. So I want to just mention that if you guys are writing comments and I'm not responding, you need to go to the Enlightened World Network Facebook page or YouTube channel and put your comments there, and that way I'll be able to see them and respond. Good morning, Bernadette. Welcome. So good to have you here with us this morning. So we're talking really about stepping into the possible. And in order to do that, we need to embrace the unknown. And this unknowing is a process, because believe it or not, as much as we may know, as smart as we may be, as intelligent as we may be, it's the knowing that is creating our limits, however expansive that knowing may be. And when we are bound by our limits, we're limiting our access to this broader, vaster, or vast, unbounded field of possibility. And so it's interesting that when we face this unknown, our typical response is fear. And this is on so many levels, whether it's 3D or 5D, you know, when we are confronted by the unknown, we want to grasp onto something familiar. We want to find a place to orient ourselves. And it's that very need to orient ourselves that keeps us bound to our limitations. So our self-perception, our identities, our familiar surroundings, our orientation in the world. You know, we dance this balance between being and doing in the world and creating from another dimension. And will do anything to avoid disorientation in so many ways, even if it means perpetuating our suffering. You know, we can look at this conversation from so many different levels where we perpetuate old patterns in our lives because they're familiar. You know, we perpetuate old identities because they're familiar. And it's what we know, it's who we believe ourselves to be. So if we've been, if we come from a family that has been denigrating an environment that has put us down and told us that we're not enough and told us that we're limited and told us that we'll never amount to anything, or that suffering is noble, or that money is the only thing that matters, or that money doesn't matter, or whatever it is, you know, whatever the beliefs are that we've been schooled to, we take these beliefs, we take our past and we project it into the future. So the familiar past, as Dr. Joe says, we take the familiar past and project it into the predictable future, rather than allowing ourselves to be free of all those identifications, to allow a moment to emerge as something completely new. And I think this is our conundrum, how to be living in the world of possibility. And part of it is to be opening the doors of perception. And one way to do that is through meditation, to allow us to disentangle ourselves from all these preconceptions. So Rosalind says, comparison and constant contrast, identifying patterns, are those our mind's tendency? Those belief systems kept us alive. So that's the paradox, I think, here. It's a huge paradox, is that we learn survival techniques, right? We learn how to interact with the world in a way that we can survive. And what happens is that so many of these things that were the foundation of our survival then become our prisons. And you know, we stop questioning, and there's a lot of comfort and productivity and possibility, in a way, to our familiar patterns, for sure. In that, you know, I get up and I know that I need to do certain things, or I have certain patterns. You know, I'll get up and make my bed and make a cup of tea, or have breakfast, or, you know, check my emails, or, you know, whatever these patterns are that we engage in, that are in many ways survival patterns. You know, we know how to navigate in the world, and yet we become habituated to those things, so that we reinforce them as our reality, as the way things are. And that prohibits us from stepping into a much more vast potential. And so while we get to navigate in our daily lives, we also get to find a way into the infinite, and and become more connected with this vastness that is unbound by space and time and identity, the identities of our past, the who we've believed ourselves to be, that we can actually in any moment step into an entirely new reality. And that thought can be really, really threatening. Like we look at, well, what is the world? What's the truth of how things are? And the more that we recognize this inquiry, the more, at least for me, I've recognized the subjectivity of that reality. Where we put our attention is where we put our energy, and that energy is energy of creation. And when we look at all the ills of the world, it's interesting because whew, it becomes a swirling confusion, I think, ultimately, when we look at the ills of the world, we look at the beauties of the world, all of it coexists. And it makes me think of this conversation around letting go. And years ago, I realized, letting go for Westerners, especially, who are so materially oriented, letting go is not something that we do with ease. And so I came up with this notion instead of expanding to include. And as we expand to include more and more possibilities, what happens is we become less and less identified with any specific possibility, and we become more expansive. We become more inclusive, more infinite, right? As we expand to include all things. And when we expand to include all things, we become no thing. We become less identified with any particular idea, any particular state of being, any particular sense of who we are in our essence. And I guess the point is that there's no one way to awaken to our potential and possibility. What does it look like to hold with open hand? We've talked about this a lot, to allow life's unfolding from a place of infinitude, a place of possibility. And to your point, Rosalind, that the belief systems kept us alive, beliefs about how things are, knowing that if we step off a cliff that we're likely to plummet to our death, that has kept us from stepping off of cliffs, so to speak, maybe literally and figuratively as well. So finding that unity space of 3D and 5D is what we're up to. Good morning, Jenny. Welcome. And I'm wondering how you're doing. and what's happening with your cars. Jenny, I was thinking, you said that your rental car was stolen. Hadn't you said that other cars that you had been stolen? I was thinking about that and wondering about that. And I'm wondering how you're faring. I think that this conversation might be a wonderful one for you if you're still in the space of, yeah. So Jenny, what's up with the cars? What's up with that? I mean, I'm wondering what that is, interesting. So I want to share a story that Dr. Joe Dispenza shares in his Rewired series. We listened to it last night. Jenny, I have to say, what the fact that so many cars have been stolen, that's anomalous. That's something that's kind of bizarre. There's a message there for sure, because that's not a common experience for people. But anyway, I want to share this story from Dr. Joe. He was talking about a woman who came to the meditation intensive. Yeah, but Jenny, I think it was like 3 cars have been stolen. And it's just beyond bizarre. And in a short period of time, it seems. So, like something that in dream representation, our car represents ourselves. And I'm wondering if in some way there's been a hijacking of yourself that I'm not saying it's your fault. I'm saying there's some kind of pattern. There's something happening it's bizarre. It's in the realm of bizarre. And so maybe there's like a deep sense of self that has been hijacked somehow, that there's an opportunity to reclaim your connection with yourself somehow. And life is just reflecting this back to you. So what I want to, good morning, Gia, welcome. So good to have you here with us. So Jenny, this story is for you, and for everybody, really. So there was a woman who came to Dr. Joe's retreat, his week-long intensive meditation retreat, who was in excruciating pain, and the pain was a source of deep depression for her, and difficulty, great upheaval and disruption in her life, and she couldn't even sit up. She was in such pain. And in the meditation, she was able to presence herself to a place of gratitude. And the gratitude itself has a deep spaciousness. And she moved herself beyond reason from this place of pain and preoccupation with the pain and the depression into a space of gratitude and expansiveness. And what that allowed was in this space of gratitude, from this place of expansiveness, the energy was able to move in a very different way. And there was movement in her body, like through this heightened space of an experiential space of gratitude. What happened was that her pain dissolved. The pain disappeared. And the thing is that these this movement into a more expansive space. So Jenny says, I just started talking to my daughter. I planned on being there for my grandson's birthday party. That's a beautiful thing, and being present into the gratitude. So there's so much pain. We have such deeply cultivated pain bodies that when we move into a space of gratitude, it takes practice and intentionality, and it is beyond reason, because we have such profound reasons to be sitting in the pain, to be sitting in the suffering, to be sitting in the depression. We have all kinds of reasons for it. And when we allow ourselves to move into these other spaces, we not only affect our physiology, we affect our entire reality. And Rosalind says, from the movie series yesterday, I liked that Dr. Joe, or that Joe Dispenza said, our bodies can create chemicals like having our own pharmacy, which is exactly true. Our bodies are this miraculous chemical construct that we can influence by creating a different state, and the emotions are the electricity that power that state. So when we're in a state of depression, we are manufacturing all kinds of depressive chemicals. When we are in a place of expansiveness, of gratitude, of love, we're creating all different kinds of chemicals. So what we're talking about is creating a brain and heart coherence. So we create the clarity of emotional state, which powers an intention. And Gia says, and what happened to her after that? I'm curious. I love your real life motivating examples. Thank you, Gia. This isn't my example, but it works. What happened was that she healed herself of the pain, that she disappeared the pain. And she got into this altered state of presence. And then by practicing that state, by practicing that expansiveness, we create new habits, we create new behaviors, we create new patterns. And so in the face of devastation, and Jenny, I know that you have experienced devastation after devastation. That's totally unreasonable to say, find a space of gratitude, like a true, real space of gratitude and appreciation, to be presencing yourself into this expansiveness that moves beyond the circumstance of the moment, that moves beyond the circumstance of life, actually, of our history, to remove ourselves and be living beyond our history and what we know into this space of unreasonable gratitude and love and expansiveness, to recognize that our being state is not dependent upon our circumstances. To when we can remove ourselves from our story, from our history, from our 3D experience. Oh, Gia says, I meant the examples that you give from your clients and others, everything having inspiring effect on me. Trust me. Thank you, Gia. That's beautiful. I'm so glad that, you know, it makes a difference. Like, and the thing I shared last night, that is a real life experience for me. And this is going beyond the reasonable and the rational. So a long time ago, my dad and I had a fight. And both of us are really, we're really, really stubborn people, and neither of us was going to take the step to call the other and say, I'm sorry. It just wasn't going to happen. And I connected to the fact that I really didn't want this upheaval with my dad, that the truth is that I loved him despite whatever my ego was saying, despite whatever my own righteousness and my own sense of self, dignity, whatever was saying, that I really loved him. And I didn't see any way for reconciling this. I just didn't see a path forward. But what I did was I presenced myself to my love for him. And I visualized this just big ball of love. And I just visualized it going to him and just exploding over him and washing him through and through. And it was the wildest thing. He called me, and all he said is, I love, love, love you. And that was the whole call. And it was a miracle. It was a miracle. So Gia, this isn't from yesterday morning. This is from the Sustainability Now movie night that we do every Thursday. And we've been showing and sharing some of the episodes from Dr. Joe Dispenza's Rewired series, which I highly recommend. But so here, beyond reason, beyond my own feelings, my own predilection. Hi, Dido. Welcome, welcome. Thank you so much. Dido says that's a beautiful story. It's an amazing story, and it's true, and it gives us the opportunity to realize that we're not bounded. Jenny, go watch. Jenny says, I have Gaia. Go watch Rewired. Please, please, please. It will be life-changing for you if you allow it to be, and super empowering. We were watching episode 7 and 8 last night. They're like 20 minutes an episode, so I really encourage you to check it out. But the thing with this, the love bomb, so to speak, was that it was beyond reason, right? It was beyond possibility. There was no way that we were going to be reconciling this. But I just presenced myself to the depth of my love for him. And that transcended time and space and reason and circumstance. And I'm sharing that so that you can presence yourself to the possibility that we all have available to us. I don't know. I don't think, Gia, that Rewired is available on Netflix. It is on Gaia TV. And you can get a subscription to that as well. Anyway, we have so much untapped potential and possibility. We have so much available to us that goes beyond our imagining. And we do have the capacity, we can cultivate the capacity to tap these broader dimensions. And there's such a richness of possibility and hope and potential and reality available to us there. So we get to move into the unknowing, and Dr. Joe says to become no one, no thing, nowhere, no time. And it is when we step into that no thingness, that unknowing, that we have access to the powers of the universe, the powers of creation, and unlimited possibility. So with that, hopefully you will take that into your weekend and move into that place of unbounded possibility, and love bomb all those people in your life who you really, in your heart and soul, adore, despite whatever circumstances may be keeping you apart. And with that, I'm just wishing you possibility and a new life that we can recreate from every moment. With that, I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection, and I go live here on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page and YouTube channel each weekday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern. Please check out the other awesome programming on Enlightened World Network, Enlightened World Living, EWN, One with the Earth. And Dido and everybody, you are so welcome. And I thank you all so much for the gift that you give me in allowing and sharing in these conversations that hopefully not only uplift us, but uplift the world. As we elevate ourselves, we elevate the field. And it is the greatest source of hope and possibility that I have for each of us individually and collectively as part of this magnificent universe. So until next time, so much love to you. I hope to